Hey Threadheads, Darren here. Welcome back to another fly tying tutorial. Another quick one here. This one is the wee Woolly Caddis, and it's a pattern by Joe Johnson. And this is one that I found in Colorado Guide Flies from Pat Dorsey. So let's get started. I'm going to get a fresh hook in the vise here. So for the hook, we're going to be using a Firehole 633, and we're going to be doing it on size 12 here today. And for the bead, I'm going to be using a Tungsten, and in the black, and size on this one is 3 millimeters. So it's a little bit, I would say, on the small side, but these hooks have a pretty large gap. The original hook used on this, I believe, was an Umpqua competition hook, a C200 barbless, and this one will do pretty good. If you have a 2XL, that might be a little bit nicer, give you a little bit more length on that body. I'm going to be using a little extra weight here in behind the bead. I'm just going to use some 0.020 lead, and we're just going to add a few wraps. Don't have to go overly heavy on this. If you want just a little bit, just add 3 or 4. If you want a little bit more, you can go up to probably 10 or 12 wraps if you wanted to. We're going to go split the difference on that about halfway, about 7 wraps of lead in there. We'll just tuck that in under the bead. And for thread, we're going to be using a Chartreuse 70D thread. And this one happens to be a Danville 8/0, or 6/0, sorry. It's a 70 denier thread. So we just want to kind of tighten in that lead into the bead. So just add a couple wraps in behind and then kind of torque that forward a little bit. For the body, we're going to be using some UNI-Yarn, and we're going to be using a dark brown here. The original material was something called wool. I'm not familiar with that, but the color on this is pretty similar to the original. So we're going to tie that in just where we left off our body weight, and that'll help gap the taper and kind of fill in the gap between the hook and the wraps of lead there. So we'll just go ahead and we're going to start to build in a bit of a taper as our underbody. We don't have a lot of different materials for the fly, so we just want to make sure, kind of smooth out any of the bumps in there a little bit. So we're going to concentrate in behind the bead and kind of slope that up so that it goes into the bead properly. And we're also going to slope it up from the base of the tie-in point at the back to where our lead ends. So that looks not too bad. We'll just add a few more wraps. And we probably want to add a little bit of head cement in here as well, just as help soak in some of those thread wraps a little bit. That'll help give your fly a little bit of durability. Just go on the top and the sides is probably great. And we should also add a half hitch in here just so we don't bump that thread off. Happens pretty easily. So let's put in a half hitch here before we get started. And then all we need to do is really just wrap up the yarn on that and add a collar to this fly. It's pretty simple, but it's a nice fly for this time of year, early mid-spring, I guess. So we just want to make sure we have touching turns of our yarn. And one thing I was going to mention, if you're tying a lot of these flies, you might want to put your yarn into a bobbin holder and disperse it that way. It makes things a little bit easier rather than just tying on a loose thread of the yarn. Alright, so we got touching turns up to just behind the bead. So we're going to take our thread and we'll tie that off right in behind the bead. We want to try and keep those wraps in as close as possible. Want to try and keep our collar on this fly fairly narrow. Cut off the excess yarn, and then we're just going to add a few more wraps of our thread here just to kind of build up a bit of density in that collar. If you have it too thin, when you put the glue on, it's not going to look very good. You're not going to get a nice solid band of the chartreuse. It's going to show through the materials down below. That looks pretty good. Grab our whip finish tool. We'll add a quick whip finish somewhere around the middle. You don't want that to fray out too much. We'll give that a little tug and we'll snip it off. Now I'm just going to add a little bit of head cement, and we'll do that around the whole collar of that fly. And a couple reasons for that is you just don't want any discoloration in there, and that is going to protect the thread band of that head, and you're not going to have that fly come apart very easily. There you go. Don't forget to leave a comment down below. We'll get you entered into the next draw for flies, materials, and decals. Hey fly tyers, thanks for stopping by and checking out my fly tying videos. If you enjoyed the video and want to show your support, hit the thumbs up and share it to your social networks. I hope you consider subscribing to the channel, and if you do, be sure to hit the bell icon to get notifications on my latest fly patterns, tips, and reviews. If you have a question or comment, leave a message below. You'll also be entered into the next draw for some of the flies I tie and a few stickers. Until next time, this is Darren saying, keep a hook in your vise. Cheers.